What's going on, guys, and welcome to my Friday Night SmackDown review for Friday, February 26, 2021. I am Graham G.S. Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well, and we are another step closer to WrestleMania 37, coming off of SmackDown last night with yet another WrestleMania match made official. On Sunday at Elimination Chamber, we found out Roman Reigns will indeed defend the Universal Championship against Edge on the grandest stage in the mall. And then on last night's SmackDown, another Mania match was made official in Sasha Banks versus Bianca Belair for the SmackDown Women's Championship. All that and much more went down on SmackDown this past week, and what I thought was a good show overall. It was a thumbs-up effort from the Blue brand. Not everything was great. Not everything is great on the show from week to week. I think people think that when people such as myself and other fans call SmackDown one of the better shows going in WWE right now, even more of a hit than miss, more frequently than NXT. And not that NXT is a bad show, I just feel like more of note happens on SmackDown from week to week than whatever happens on Raw. Or I'm sorry, well, Raw too, but NXT. And that's not to say that SmackDown is this perfect show and that everything is great. The tag team division is still a mess. And what was the other issue that I had with this show? That was really about it. That and like the Riot Squad and Billy Kay and Tamina and Natalia crap. I like the Riot Squad, but that feud has done absolutely nothing for me. I don't think there's any real reason to be furthering that feud every single week here on the show. I am not begging for a weekly dose of Tamina on SmackDown. But that being said, though, overall, I do think SmackDown is just a far easier show to watch than Raw from week to week. More stuff of note happens than on NXT. And it's more than just the Roman Reigns show at this point. And I've been saying that for a long time, and it is still absolutely true. But it's not just the Roman Reigns related segments on these SmackDown shows that's the best. I mean, they are the best part of the show. But they aren't the only thing on these shows that's worthwhile and going out of your way to check out. Because at this point, we have the Bianca Sasha stuff now made official for WrestleMania. That is absolutely the match they should be doing for that championship at WrestleMania 37. We have the Intercontinental Championship picture with Apollo Crews, Nakamura, Big E, doing some great stuff. I'll get to Crews in a little bit. I thought he had a great night here on SmackDown on Friday. Cesaro and Rollins are doing their thing right now. I'm a fan of that feud, doing that going into Fastlane or WrestleMania, and I'll get to that momentarily as well. And again, Bryan, Uso, Reigns, Edge, all clouding that Universal Championship picture, gets 2 thumbs up for me. And people like Zayn, Corbin are directionless right now. The Mysterios aren't really doing much. The Otis and Gable heel turn really doesn't do a lot for me. The Riot Squad stuff is more often than not very skippable, and not because of the Riot Squad, it's because of how they've been booked in recent weeks and recent months. But again, overall, SmackDown is a pretty good show to watch from week to week. Far easier than it was to watch this time a year ago, a year and a half ago. The first, I would say, 8 to 9 months of that Fox era of SmackDown from when they debuted in October of 2019 up until, I would say maybe really right up until Roman Reigns returned in August, it was a very bad show. It was a really, really bad show from week to week. And the decisions that were being made, and the fault doesn't really fall on any one particular person. I know Braun was champion for a time. The Fiend was champion for a time. I like both guys. There are a few didn't really like the World on Fire. So once you took those guys off of SmackDown, really didn't focus on them as much, and you gave the roster, you gave more spotlight to some of the deeper elements of the roster, people like Big E and Bryan being back now. Rollins is on the show. Cesaro, you're giving more opportunities to. Nakamura, Belair, Sasha, Bayley. I think the show has become a lot better as a result, so it's cool to see. But we open this episode with Roman Reigns boasting about his victory at Elimination Chamber, beating Daniel Bryan decisively and quickly. The match was, I believe, under 2 minutes. And he also, hyped up the WrestleMania match coming up with Edge for the Universal Championship, very likely, and as it should be, in the main event of one of the 2 nights of WrestleMania, whether it be night 1 or night 2. I would prefer night 2 just because that would mark literally exactly a decade from when Edge vacated and relinquished the World Heavyweight Championship and he announced his retirement promo on Raw. Literally 10 years to the day. You couldn't write it any more perfect than that. And that'll never happen again. So I think it should be the main event of night 2, but that's just me. And I think it will be anyway. So he was boasting about his victory over Bryan in the upcoming WrestleMania match when said superstar Daniel Bryan came out to take exception to the fact that, listen, dude, you beat me, but only after I went through an Elimination Chamber matchup. The odds were not fair, and, I gave you a fight before you put me down, and you retained your title, and it made me feel like a failure to see Edge pointing up at the WrestleMania sign afterward, knowing that it would not be involved in the title picture. And he said, there's a lot of similarities between us. Why not put those similarities to rest by beating me cleanly, decisively, with a fair fight? Why not, if you call yourself the main event, why not put myself against you in the main event of Elimination Chamber as opposed to you coming out right afterward? Is it because you're afraid to face me? So I really, really like this, and this is only the tip of the iceberg here. They only really scratch the surface of what they can delve into with a real Roman Reigns and Daniel Bryan rivalry. There's so much history there. There's so much you can discuss. This is really only the tip of the iceberg. And I'll get to Bryan and Reigns in a moment, but it makes me kind of, not sad, but I would rather see this storyline saved until after WrestleMania, because I think of the two, I think Roman Reigns is going to retain. And Edge winning would be awesome. I think Edge hasn't been champion in a decade. You could just give him his moment, and then he can lose it literally like the next pay-per-view or a couple of months later. If Edge gets his moment, I think it's a win-win, really. Edge gets his moment, or Roman retains and continues this awesome role that he's been on since August. That's a long time. So to me, it really doesn't matter who wins. But either way, whether it be after WrestleMania or in time for SummerSlam or whatever, you can do Roman and Bryan as a full-fledged feud at that point. Because the fact that they're doing it now, I remember that Roman and Bryan had a match at the Fastlane pay-per-view, the very first one they did, in 2015. Had Bryan beaten Roman, he would have taken his WrestleMania title shot against Brock Lesnar for the World Championship, and Bryan lost. The thing here was that was a little bit more unpredictable, just because it was a year removed from when Bryan worked his way into the WrestleMania main event for WrestleMania 30, won the championship, and it made sense for him to be facing Roman Reigns because the backlash to Roman's win was so huge. You couldn't really save that until after WrestleMania. I mean, I guess you could have, but it made sense to do it in the moment to kind of quiet some of the haters of Roman Reigns at that point. You don't really have that situation now with no fans. This is a storyline that really, it should be more unpredictable than it currently is. Because for a fact if they do the match before WrestleMania now, Bryan's going to lose. He's probably going to lose anyway, to be fair. But at least it suspends that disbelief if you do it in a couple of months from now, or a year from now, or probably later on this year. I'm not sure how much longer Bryan's going to be around for, but that's a SummerSlam story right there, in my opinion. And I think the interaction here proved that. I don't want to see this material wasted on a Fastlane build. And I know we saw Edge later on in the evening, actually right after the segment backstage with Adam Pearce and Sonya Deville, kind of complaining in not so Edge fashion about the fact that Bryan would be getting a title shot before WrestleMania. Now, I know Edge wants to face Roman Reigns, but why does he fucking care if Bryan goes for the championship? And Bryan's a babyface. He's not even a heel. He likes Bryan. He showed respect for Bryan when they interacted backstage a few weeks ago. I didn't think that made a whole lot of sense, because I guess the original plan in storyline was for Edge to face Roman and Jey in a tag team match, and I might be completely mistaken, but I didn't hear them say who his partner would be. Maybe his partner would have been Daniel Bryan, or maybe they just said Edge would have to find a partner. Honestly, I know the championship isn't on the line there. I think that's a much better idea. And normally I would say, that's a SmackDown main event, but we don't see Edge wrestle every week. And if it meant Christian coming back to team with Edge against Roman and Jey Uso, I think that is a far better idea, because at least it's more unpredictable. You see Edge and Christian reunite, or Edge and Bryan team up, which you might not get on SmackDown. And for a fact that Roman's not going to win, unlike if he faced Bryan one-on-one. And yeah, the match could be great. The match will be great. I have no doubt about that. You just absolutely know Roman's going to win. There is zero doubt, zero suspense over that. So honestly, I was hoping the outcome of the main event, which was a double countout, spoiler alert, between Jey Uso and Bryan, where if Bryan won, he would get the title shot at Fastlane. I was hoping that outcome would indicate we are not getting that match at Fastlane, and there's still a chance that we might not, that they just might do the tag team match and someone interferes, but as announced on Talking Smack, it'll be a steel cage next week between Bryan and Jey Uso. And if Bryan wins, he gets the shot at Fastlane. I wouldn't think they would tease the match this much to not do it at this point. And again, it's not like it's Jinder Mahal back in the title picture. Like, it's Daniel Bryan. It's a great match. I'm just nitpicking when I say I think they should save the match until a couple of months from now, even until at least right after WrestleMania. I think doing it now is a mistake when they could just save it for down the road when it would mean more, in my opinion. So we'll see how it shakes out next week. But that was the outcome of the main event. That's what they were building to on the show. And Edge, interestingly enough, was not there to save Bryan after the match when Roman and Jay were beating up on him. So I guess that'll be something to follow next week. But the first match on the show saw Otis and Chad Gable knock off the duo of Dominic and Rey Mysterio. A fine little match here, and Otis and Gable could have potential as a heel tandem, but it just keeps going back to what I've been saying for the last week or two now. Why the fuck are Otis and Gable a tag team when they literally just had Heavy Machinery break up? I'm not even saying Otis will be a world champion on his own. I know he won Money in the Bank a year ago. I like Otis a lot, but that was a mistake if there was never really going to be any follow-up with that. And there could have been, honestly. Otis had so much momentum that had they followed up properly, he could have been a fun challenger for a Braun Strowman or a Roman Reigns or The Fiend or whoever. But they didn't want to do that, so whatever. But they turned the guy heel. To me, he's not a natural heel, so I'm not really sure how far that'll go. Gable can be entertaining as a heel, but they're only doing this because they need more teams. I guess it is better than them not being on the show, Aleister Black. But it's just, to me, a complete waste of both guys. Put Otis back with Tucker, who hasn't been seen on WWE TV in weeks, if not months. Honestly, I haven't seen him on Main Event in a while. I'm not like one of 10 people who watch Main Event to review it for my site. I haven't even seen him on that show in a long time. I forgot he was even still employed. So just put those two back together. Gable, you can even have him manage Otis. I know having them around helps the tag team division, but that should not be their problem. That should not be the problem of Gable and Otis. Otis should be a part of that tag team division with Tucker. They never won the titles. They were a great babyface duo. Why even bother breaking them up? They could be feuding with Ziggler and Rude right now. And Otis has a fucking history with Ziggler anyway, so it makes perfect sense. And I think they did the match on an episode of SmackDown a year ago, but then Rude had to go into quarantine because COVID started and he's from Canada, so whatever. But you could have just done that. Currently, it didn't really look like they have any sort of idea for what they want to do for the tag titles, whether it be at Fastlane or WrestleMania. I know the Profits are building to a rematch with Ziggler and Rude, and we got that match on the show too. Not between those two, but again, I'm all over the place here. But the Street Profits beat Sami Zayn and King Corbin. Sami Zayn and King Corbin, well, they were entertaining as a team to the effect that, Corbin wasn't completely on board with teaming with him in the first place. I'm not even really sure why they teamed, to be honest with you. I think just because Sami wanted tag team gold, so he asked Corbin to be his partner, and Corbin reluctantly said yes. But anything Corbin is involved in at this point, because of the King crap, I automatically lose interest in. And I'm one of the few people who is a Baron Corbin fan. Maybe not few. I think there's a lot of Baron Corbin fans out there. Not a lot, but more than I would, more than I indicated. But, I like Corbin. The King crap is terrible. And him and Sami just don't have a lot of great chemistry as a team. At that point, just put Zayn back with Kevin Owens, to be completely honest with you. Zayn's time in the title picture for the Intercontinental Championship is done. He's not going after the Universal Championship. He's done some great work since coming back, and even last year when he was IC champion the first time going into WrestleMania 36. Just team him with Owens or have him feud with Owens. Him and Corbin is just, to me, not a natural pairing. Owens and Corbin might be even worse, not as a pairing, but as a feud. So I really hope that's not what they do going to WrestleMania. That screams Corbin and Elias 2.0 from last year. And where the hell did that go? Elias got hurt after he beat Corbin, who beat Kurt Angle the year before, by the way. And it went absolutely nowhere. It was a complete waste of time. So, the King shit is terrible. Sami Zayn should be doing more. And that should not be the problem. That should not be their issue, that the SmackDown Tag Team division is as thin as it is. The Profits getting a rematch with Ziggler and Rude makes complete sense. It just shouldn't happen at WrestleMania, because we've already seen the match, I don't know, a bajillion times, or at least it feels like a bajillion times. We had it on SmackDown when the Profits first moved to SmackDown. They did it on SmackDown in November. I think that was when Ziggler and Rude beat the Profits. Profits beat Ziggler and Rude to retain the titles in December. In January was when Rude and Ziggler beat them for the tag titles, and we haven't gotten a rematch since. And the story is that Sonya Deville is the one that's actually blocking the idea of them getting a tag team title rematch. Why? I have no idea. Maybe because she wants to mess with Montez because he's married to Bianca and they'll feud. I have no clue. But I thought that was weird. So we'll see where they go with this. The tag team division still needs help, though. Otis and Gable beat the Mysterios, by the way, which I know they're trying to push these guys, but what doesn't make any sense to me is that, one, Otis and Gable should not really need to be a team. Two, the current tag team champions are heels. So why are they building up another heel team if they're probably not going to do that as a match? Three, Rey Mysterio has never meant less since he came back to WWE 2.5, 3 years ago. I mean, he was the one who took the pin here, not Dominic. Dominic should be the one taking the pin. To be completely honest with you, Dominic should be back in NXT or on 205 Live or some shit like that. He is not main roster ready. The kid is good. I like the fact that he's teaming with Rey. The time to put the tag titles on them, I argue, is many, many months ago. At this point, no one could give two fucks about these guys. Once the Rollins story ran its course, they were just doomed to do nothing. We haven't seen Murphy in forever. I don't know what the fuck is going on with him. I think they dropped the Elias stuff. I mean, obviously they did if you watched the show, but it was reported they dropped it because they didn't know what to do with it. Well, no shit. Then why even do it in the first place? Before I go any further, I do got to say this. I am so unbelievably pissed right now because I just went on a 15-minute tangent. Not tangent, but I just discussed the rest of the show. I just did the rest of this review for another 15 minutes, and none of it saved. When I looked at my recording thing, when I looked at the recording here, it stopped out at that point while I was talking about Rey Mysterio and Dominic versus Otis and Gable. And I know this happens to podcasters all the time. It happens to everybody at least once. It's happened to me before. Thankfully, it wasn't the whole file. It was only up until then. But I'm so pissed because I literally just spent 15 minutes talking about everything else on the show. Now I got to go back and do it again. And the problem is that I just don't have the time to do that. So I just got to offer a quick... man, this sucks. But I got to just do a quick recap of the rest of the show. So Otis and Gable, they beat Dominic and Mysterio clean. Dominic and Rey Mysterio clean. I just don't care. I mean, the division still needs help. The division still needs a lot of help. The Profits later on beat Sami and Corbin. I'm not sure if I already talked about that, but we had that on the show too. And they can do Profits and Ziggler and Rude at WrestleMania. It's just not WrestleMania worthy. So maybe they'll do it at Fastlane. I would hope they do it at Fastlane. Cruz and Nakamura, I thought, was a good match, and it was a way for Cruz to get his win back from last week. The promo that preceded it was even better. So Cruz, I had seen some speculation online, not speculation, but talk about it and stuff like that. And it's not exactly an issue, but it is a great question. People were asking, why did it take Cruz turning heel to embrace his background? Having been from Nigeria and being from Nigeria, that is, and using the accent, and he used the Nigerian accent, I think that's super cool. I just don't know why it took this long for them to do that. You know what I mean? That wasn't really something I thought about when I was watching the promo, but I saw people talking about that online. Honestly, it's a great question. I honestly don't have an answer for you. Will they explain it? Probably not, knowing WWE, but they absolutely should. Regardless, I love the change in attitude. The new gear for Cruz is great. And I hope they do Cruz and Big E at WrestleMania, not the multi-man Intercontinental title ladder fest they typically do, which they could save that shit for Raw. The real rivalry for this championship right now, save that shit for when you don't have a real feud over a title. The match at WrestleMania is Cruz and Big E, with Cruz probably winning. With the role that he's been on lately in terms of his character work, he's got to win, in my opinion. Tamina beat Liv Morgan. Who the hell could possibly care? I like the Riot Squad, but it just pisses me off that they're a legit tag team, and they have never held the tag titles. They're not even in the title picture. They got a title shot, when was it? A Clash of Champions? Or no, it was supposed to be a Clash of Champions, but it was a couple of weeks later. Or maybe the next night on Raw, I don't know. But they lost, and they haven't been in the title picture since then. Yet we'll have a makeshift tag team as the champions. You'll have Tamina and Natalya beat the Riot Squad, even though they're not a legit tag team. Kai and Gonzalez, I kind of get just because they've been a team now for about a year. Them winning is what should absolutely happen, and maybe the Riot Squad can challenge them. But then you have Naomi and Lana on Raw. Bianca and Sasha got a team on Sunday. I know that was for their feud, but dude, who cares? The Riot Squad are a legit tag team, and the Iconics aren't even that good. They weren't even that good together. And, I mean, they have good chemistry, but it's like their matches were terrible. And they held the belt for 4 months. So how have the Riot Squad not gotten a shot yet? And I don't want to sound like a hypocrite, because I was never the biggest fan of the Riot Squad initially, just because their booking was terrible. And as heels, they were just not good. They were miscast in the role. They are natural baby faces, in my opinion. All three of them, even including Sarah Logan. So I'm glad they're baby faces, but they just keep losing. There was no Billie Kay this week. I don't know. I just don't care. Tamina is terrible, and Natalya is unbelievably boring. So I just don't get it. At least they did get something right with the women on the show, with Bianca choosing, obviously, Sasha Banks to face her for the SmackDown Women's Championship at WrestleMania. Good segment here. I just don't understand the involvement of Reginald, because I just don't care about him. Like, if they're building to Carmella and Bianca, that's fine. I would think they would save that until after Mania. If Bianca wins the belt, that's one of the feuds you can do. And even if she doesn't, you can have her run through Carmella to earn herself another title shot. But I don't know. I absolutely do not want to see Carmella in the championship match at WrestleMania. Belair and Banks one-on-one is the money match they absolutely have to do. And I don't think the latter, just because there's been a lot of talk, even WWE has acknowledged that the match of Mania between Banks and Belair is history-making. And I know they use that term a lot, and like, what exactly is history-making? I understand that, but it really is. It's a very big deal. Not just because it's the money match to do, but because as many people have pointed out, including Bianca herself, it'll be the first black male or female, I believe, black male/female versus another black male/female match at WrestleMania for a top title. Maybe they've done it for like the US or the IC. I'd really have to go back and think. I honestly don't remember. This does not happen as often as it should in WWE. That's very sad, but it's happening for a top title at WrestleMania. Definitely the women's championship. I don't think it's ever happened for a women's title before WrestleMania. So I think that's really, really cool. Adding Carmella, as great as her work has been over the last couple of months, would be just completely unnecessary. So hopefully that is not where they're going with this. Cesaro attacks Seth Rollins, putting him in the Cesaro swing, one of the best Cesaro swings I've ever seen. It was a good segment, and yeah, I don't know. I guess so. I would assume they're doing the match at Fastlane. People saying, "Oh, Cesaro's going to get the Mania match." I don't think he is. I think Bryan. I don't know. Bryan's been pushing a lot for Cesaro lately, so I wouldn't think that they would do Rollins and Bryan without having Cesaro play some sort of a role. Like, he's not going to be in the Battle Royal. Been there, done that. He won the first one. It's not going to get much better than that. He's not going to be. He shouldn't be on the kickoff show like he was last year facing Drew Gulak. Who cares? I think the Mania match should be Rollins, Bryan, and Cesaro in a triple threat match at this point. It's not that much different than if Bryan and Rollins were going one-on-one. It's not like Bianca and Banks where that's the money match to do. Rollins and Bryan is a money match to me. Maybe not as much as that, but, you can add Cesaro, and it's not that big of a deal. Because they've done Rollins and Bryan one-on-one before. It's not like we haven't seen it before. So adding Cesaro, I think, would be cool. And with the amount of momentum that Cesaro has right now, not putting him at WrestleMania in some sort of a featured match, in my opinion, would be a mistake. And I already talked about Bryan and Jey Uso ending in a double countout. The match was good. We've seen it a bunch of times, but as they announced on Talking Smack, which you could check out that review of that show from today right after you listen to this one, they will fight in a steel cage match next week, and if Bryan wins, he gets the title shot at WrestleMania. I'm sorry, not at WrestleMania, at Fastlane against Roman Reigns. I would prefer the tag team match, but that's just me. So that was SmackDown in a nutshell. Again, I apologize for not going more in depth. I literally went on for like 15, 20 minutes about this show, and it didn't save. I'm so fucking pissed. It wasn't even ranting. I really liked the show. I just wanted more details than I just did. But I guess that just goes to show you really should just check your equipment while you're recording and not wait until you're 15 minutes in. I guess it's better this than like an interview or something like that, but it still pisses me off. But nonetheless, guys, thank you for checking out this abbreviated edition of my review for SmackDown for February 26, 2021. I appreciate it. You can check out all my other SmackDown audio reviews here in the channel in the description box down below. You can like this video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. I may have missed it. I haven't gone on my channel a lot in the last day or two. I've just been really, really busy this week. But if we haven't already surpassed 5,000 subscribers, we are really, really fucking close. So, like, very close. So please subscribe. Help me reach the milestone in the next few days, I would greatly appreciate it. You get SmackDown audio reviews every single Saturday, Talking Smack audio reviews every single Saturday, Raw Talk reviews on Tuesday, excerpts from my podcast on Thursday, including predictions and reviews and stuff like that. I review Ms. and Mrs., Straight Up Steve Austin, Total Bellas, Total Divas, all that shit. All the network content, including Broken Skull sessions with Sasha Banks from last week, WWE 24 and Big E coming up this Monday. We have WandaVision reviews here on the channel, and my exclusive interviews with the stars of WWE and NXT. In the last couple of, I think, just 2 months alone. I mean, literally this week alone, we've had Karrion Kross from NXT and the new WWE champion, The Miz. It doesn't get much better than that. And the week before that, we had Kofi Kingston right before Elimination Chamber. NXT champion Finn Balor, that interview is up here in the channel. Casey Catanzaro from NXT. Roman Reigns, AJ Styles, Apollo Crews, Kevin Owens a few months ago. The first Finn Balor interview, I think I already mentioned AJ Styles, but Stone Cold Steve Austin himself, Keith Lee, and so many more. So don't miss out on all the exclusive interviews going up pretty much weekly right here in the channel by subscribing and hitting that bell button to be notified every time a new video goes up. Have a great rest of your weekend, guys. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.